I had my first 6-star read of 2026. This book, A Thousand Splendid Suns, was just incredible. Like, I can't stop talking about it. Anybody who wants to listen to me, I just want to tell them about this book because that's how amazing it was for me. I gave this as a 6-star, my first 6-star of the year, and I don't think I'll ever forget this book. This is so incredibly written. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's poetic. It's so real. It's very uncomfortable to read, but it's absolutely worth the reading. This is the type of book where I feel like at least once in your lifetime you have to pick it up and read it. The author did an amazing job. When I opened up the book, I was introduced to the character of Miriam, and Miriam is a teenager living with her mother Nana, and Miriam and Nana were living a very isolated life. But Miriam had a father who was present in the sense that he would visit her once a week, they would chat. And Miriam, as a teenager, was very innocent, very naive, quite unaware of her positionality in society. And Nana, I think, was quite frustrated with that. And she could see that Miriam is not getting it. And her father was playing into her innocence and her being naive. I made a whole video about this book. Okay, that's how much I loved it. And then from there, in the book, I got to experience Miriam moving through different phases of her life, from being a teenager to now having to live life without her mother, and all the way to her being a woman in her 40s. And during that time, she also gets to meet Layla, and Miriam becomes almost like a mother figure to Layla. And I see the journey of adulthood through their friendship and bond. This is so incredibly written. It's so sad. It covers a lot of themes. Some of the themes I can think of at the top of my head. Things like mental health. It's things like war. It's things like civil unrest. There's content of abuse. There's content of religion and faith and how it's utilized even when there's civil wars and unrest. This book is so real, and it's written with so much authenticity. And this is one of those books that when you read, you have to think about the world and what's happening in different countries across the world in different regions, because sometimes when you read other books you can just get lost into the bubble of that book. But this book makes you think a lot about people that are minorities, people who are vulnerable, where there's civil unrest, where there's wars, what they're going through, what they do to survive, and also how religion is utilized in those instances. Like, I could speak about this book for days. Like I said, I made a separate video for this book. Absolutely worth reading. If you've read it, let me know, how did you feel after reading it? If it's on your TBR or you're about to pick it up, you are going to need a support group after reading this one. And I don't think I'll ever forget the story of Layla and Miriam and Nana. By Frida McFadden. This is a thriller. This was a quick read, very short chapters, to the point, but it did have the plot and twist of a thriller. In this book, I was introduced to the character of Amy, who's a medical student who was going for her first overnight call in the psychiatric unit. She was quite nervous and anxious going into it because she has an association with psychiatric units from her past. And in there, she has to work through the night with her ex-boyfriend. But to her surprise, her ex-best friend is admitted in the ward. And in that ward, there's just so much chaos. Amy's trying to figure out who she can trust, who she cannot trust, what's really going on in this ward. Something doesn't feel good to her, and the thriller is basically Amy figuring out what's going on to the ward and who she can really trust. Along the way, I got to see Amy be naive, trust the wrong people in the ward, but at the end she really did kind of figure out what was going on. And it's told from two perspectives: the perspective of Amy in the present day, as well as the perspective of Amy and her best friend 8 years ago, and it draws the connection to what ends up happening in this ward. I think this is a good book to read when you're first getting yourself into the genre of thrillers. It's not the best thriller out there, but it does the job, and I think it's really good when you're looking for a quick read, when you're trying to get something to get you out of a slump, or when you're first trying to get yourself introduced to the genre of thrillers. Wasn't too bad. I also finished listening to 2 audiobooks in the month of April. I listened to My Husband Next Door. This audiobook also had thriller and like mystery vibes to it. In this book, I was introduced to the character of Sylvie and Matt. Sylvie and Matt are married, but they're living together apart. So while they're married, they live in separate houses, but they're on the same street. And this is an arrangement that they're very happy with. It works for them until a girl goes missing in the neighborhood, and Sylvie starts to feel uncomfortable. But she takes comfort from her new neighbor, Brenda. However, Brenda knows no boundaries. Brenda does not know boundaries, and Sylvie is a person who has, she came across as having difficulty setting boundaries. So when you have a character who literally does not know boundaries, does not respect people's boundaries, and then you have a character who struggles with setting boundaries, Brenda became so immersed in Sylvie's life. And then when the second girl goes missing, chaos breaks out for Sylvie. She's trying to figure out what's happening, because with the second girl that goes missing, this is somebody that's close to her, somebody that she knows. And with that, Sylvie has to learn a lot about her husband, her daughter, her neighbor. She finds herself in a place where she's having to discover a lot about her loved ones and make sense of it all. I also listened to My Therapist, My Lover by Chris Beam. This audiobook, it's a very short story. This book, I just felt like it lacked depth. I felt like it had the frame, it had the structure, but it didn't really build from there, because I was introduced to a character who starts a new therapeutic journey with this therapist. She becomes attracted to the therapist. She confesses her feelings. They get into a relationship, and then there I saw power dynamics play out in their relationship. I think the book had so much potential, but for me it just really fell flat, in that it felt unfinished. It felt it just really lacked depth for me. I wanted more depth from it. And also I just feel like if a book is going to be a short story, it needs to have impact from the first word until the last word, and this one unfortunately didn't have that for me, so it's not necessarily one that I would recommend. I also had several books that I carry ons, includes Homegoing. I enjoyed this book. I think what slowed me down with Homegoing was when it spoke about the conditions of the slaves. That did something to me, and then from there I just kept avoiding this book. And then trying to read it the same time when I was reading A Thousand Splendid Suns, I was just like, I have to just read one said book at a time, because both of them are so tragic and so heartbreaking. So I think with Homegoing, the mistake was trying to read it the same time when I was reading other books, and that just doesn't work. I just need to finish this book. I'm just a little bit over halfway with it. I'm in part 2 of it, so I know I'll just get it done. So yeah. The other book was Never's Conditions. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling reading. It has nothing to do with the book. I just wasn't feeling reading. I hope that I'll be able to finish it this month and get into it. So this is just going to be a carryover. The other carryover I have is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. With this book, something is lacking for me, but I really haven't put my fingers on it in terms of what is it, because it's an easy book to get through. So I'm like, why am I reading so slow? I think this is one of the books I'm probably going to come back in my May reading wrap up and be like, maybe be able to elaborate and explain further what it lacked for me, but something is lacking here for me. Also started The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. I've heard good things about it. Unfortunately, I started this the same time when I was reading A Thousand Splendid Suns, and I just wanted to focus on A Thousand Splendid Suns. I was just like, no, let me just focus on this book. Let me like fully immerse myself in it. Let me really get into the characters. So, but I'm excited to finish this one. I've heard good things about it. That is my April reading wrap up. I managed to finish 2 physical books and 2 audiobooks, and then I had 4 books that I started but didn't finish, and I'll be carrying them over. Let me know what your April reading wrap up looked like, and I'll see you in the next video, and thank you so much for joining. Bye.